All right. Hello, everybody. For those who were not in the previous session, welcome to one of our 3 side events. So this is probably the most relaxed of the 3. The purpose of this workshop is basically just to provide potential applicants or people interested in the boot camp the opportunity to ask some of the alumni your questions. So we have Dinara Ermakova, who was a participant in 2019. 2019. She's also been an organizer this year and has been amazing on that front. So thank you. We also have Vighnesh, who was also a participant in 2019, and then Richard, who participated in the last alumni panel during the main event from 2016, right? Yeah. So I guess I'll start just by kind of giving an overview of how the boot camp works in a normal year. This is the sixth year of the boot camp. This year and last year, however, have been online events. Last year was a closed summit for the alumni, similar format to this. And then this year we're doing a more, the public facing event. But the first 4 are our actual boot camp event that we began in the first year in 2016 and continued for 4 years, and fingers crossed we'll have be able to program again next year. And the format is broken down. It's a 2-week event. It's broken down into 2 main components, one of them being a syllabus or a curriculum of courses that take place in the morning and early afternoon. And these are on a range of topics. So there are technology related courses, business development, marketing, economics, there are social science courses. And the idea is to give participants a very broad range of exposure to different topics that are needed for starting your own venture or better understanding startup culture or designing your own projects and going through all the phases and stages of that. And those courses are taught by professionals from within the nuclear sector, from professionals from outside, from government, business, academia. We really try and get a large variety of backgrounds because we think that the value of the boot camp is in, not just in terms of the diversity of participants, but also the presenters, and making sure that we are being exposed to other industries that have maybe figured out some of the challenges that we're trying to overcome in the nuclear sector now. So that's the first half. The other half is the much more interactive half, which are the team design projects. And those are an opportunity for the participants to group up. We have an ideation process. It's a bit chaotic in a good way on the second day of the boot camp, where we are taking turns coming up with ideas and at the same time trying to recruit other people to work with us on those ideas. And so at the end of an afternoon, those usually take about a few hours at least, we have teams that have come together and they spend the next 8 days, 10 days working on building those ventures from scratch. And so on the final day, what takes place is each of the teams pitches to a panel of expert judges, and those judges pick a winner. And so what is cool about the boot camp is that for a lot of participants, that's not necessarily the end. Some groups have gone on to start companies, like Richard can talk about. Some groups have gone on to continue doing other types of innovation competitions around the world. Dinara can talk about that. But it becomes kind of a network that you stay involved in for the long term, hopefully. And that's kind of the structure. I don't know, maybe Dinara and Richard, do you all want to talk about your experiences afterwards and during both? We haven't heard from you, Dinara, or from Vighnesh, so you two can tell us about your experience.
Okay, I can start. First of all, I'm really glad to see so many people interested in attending this session. It means you have some interest in applying to next year's bootcamp, please do so. We want to see fresh blood next year and want to increase the pool of our alum network. Second, I would say Nuclear Innovation Bootcamp was something very different from anything I had during my academic experience. First of all, because it has different focus. At school, you probably too much focused on engineering part and science part of the matter, how to build reactors. But then if you don't know how to bring those technologies into market, have no idea how to communicate or even approach potential investors, partners, teammates, that will be pretty hard time. You will be having pretty hard time in bringing your ideas into life and make changes into kind of our world's life. So Nuclear Innovation Bootcamp had that particular aspect of teamwork, of speaking to industry experts and leaders or CEOs of existing companies that are being first step takers in nuclear industry, which is hard itself. So we could get this experience firsthand without, not as an interview, but as a talk after the Nuclear Innovation Bootcamp day with a beer. That basically was our evening with CEO of Seaborg, when we just were drinking beer and talking about all the things and struggles they had as a company. And we were just like, okay, that's super cool. We could talk as, I don't know, as peers, as like, that was quite an amazing experience. And second, this network can be used in the future. For example, because of Nuclear Innovation Bootcamp, I got access to the network, and then I could throw panel session back in my school because I was able to approach those people and say, hey, this is me. Could you be a speaker in this panel, because we want to talk a little bit more about nuclear. So that was my experience. And as a next step, we were presenting our project that we presented and developed, first of all, at Nuclear Innovation Bootcamp in Australia at the International Youth Nuclear Congress. And that was another experience when you can present to a broader audience and actually increase your network even bigger. So that's something you never lose as a skill. You just build it within this 2 weeks. You make friends, you build network, you build skills, you become less shy as an engineer. And that was my experience. And if you have any questions, please throw them in the Q&A, and I will pass it to Vicky. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dinara. So I'm Vighnesh. You guys could have known, like they put that I'm working in Assystem, but actually from this week starting onwards, I'm working at Seaborg in product development of molten salt reactors. So it's a new step in my career. With that said, I would like to add some points on what Dinara already said. Back when I was attending bootcamp, normally bootcamp happens in the North American region, and I was living in Paris at that time. I was starting my career in Assystem. And on that year, fortunately, they shifted bootcamp to the OECD office in Paris, and it was my manager who motivated me to go to the bootcamp, because I had like zero idea that something like this was happening. And I was really happy that she pushed me to go to this bootcamp, because like Dinara said, I wanted it gave us different perspective from a business standpoint on economics and what are the problems that the nuclear industry on itself is facing. They will tell you a very interesting story called the jewel in the box. I'm not going to spoil it, but it kind of revolutionized how I view the industry. And I took that experience in hand, and when I was working, after I worked in Assystem, I did a lot of innovation projects based on that story to help the nuclear industry. At the same time, you will gain a lot of leadership skills, because you might be shy, but the aim of bootcamp is not just to give you data on what are the skills present in the industry, but it will make you train and utilize the skills. And I found it quite interesting, because I was kind of shy to talk to not my manager, but my business unit directors and stuff like that. But after the boot camp, I never cared. Like, if I had an idea, I directly made a proposal and approached them to see like how we can bring it to life. And if they have some comments, we made like, I understood how to make a business conversation from the perspective. And also it gives you a good like a life hack, not a life hack, like a competition hack, because after that, last year I was also I was the runner-up in the Spark contest. No, it was this year. It was 2020, 2021. I was the runner-up in the Spark contest. It's a Franco-British contest, kind of a sister competition to Nuclear Innovation Bootcamp, but it's quite in general for the entire energy sector. And also, I will be going to the European Young Generation Forum next month at Tarragona, Barcelona, to make another kind of a business proposition for it's another nuclear innovation business contest, and I'll be going there and participating in the finals. And if I win, I go to the International Young Nuclear Congress in Russia next year. So it kind of gives you a very interesting kind of skill for these kind of competitions. And these kind of competitions is where you meet a lot of new people to network. You see like-minded people like yourself in your generation. At the same time, you see like experienced people who can give you a lot of valuable skills and information on the industry, and it will help you in your career in the long run. With that said, I will pass it to Richard now.
Thanks. So I've already spoken today about a couple of these things. So I'll quickly recap my journey, but I'll try and be brief so we can get to the questions. So I was at the inaugural boot camp in 2016. I felt very lucky to be there, and as I sort of commented earlier, I felt like I found my calling a little bit. Definitely agree that everyone there is like-minded in some way, and I'm a bit of an optimist anyway, so I always feel like you can find something in common with everyone that you meet. But actually, these people really were very much peas in a pod. So, you know, you find yourself clicking with people, having good discussions, interesting ideas floating around all the time. And I think I would echo what's been said already, in that you kind of gives you that belief, it gives you that kind of mindset change, that not that you can do anything necessarily, or well, perhaps I could say that, but it sounds a bit cliche, but you know, that you have that go-getter kind of attitude. And you know, I've often then, since then, and indeed at the boot camp as well, been the kind of person who's always saying, well, why not? Or pushing a button of saying, well, why are things done that way? We can change that, you know, we can break that if it's not working. And I think that sort of mentality passes through to so many different walks of life as well. I've started reading the kind of books that probably will be recommended on bootcamp type curriculum, which has really helped me sort of develop as a person as well. I think it's probably one of the biggest things, is that, as we were saying earlier, a lot of what bootcamp gives you is, you know, the supplementary skills to what you learn on whatever course you may be doing at your chosen university or in your career. When you're learning those technical skills or those professional skills, this gives you a lot of the soft skills. And I don't say soft skills lightly. They're more important in business in particular than the hard skills, frankly. So that's definitely one big thing. In terms of my journey, where I've been, I mean, to briefly give you what I've done since, I completed my PhD in 2020 after a year of craziness. My mum died and a whole load of personal stuff happened. But, you know, I got through it. And in 2019, I launched a company called Kyoto Fusioneering. Said a bit about it earlier. If you want to ask me more about it, please do. We're a fusion startup. We are developing fusion technology for reactors. So we are actually serving the fusion industry. So we are moving from science and the lab into industrialization. So a lot of what we're trying to do is focus on building technologies, testing them, failing, learning, and going again. And that's definitely the shift in fusion. I know there's a lot of guys and girls on here today who are in the kind of fission space, but you know, fusion's a nuclear technology, and a lot of changes happened in the last 5 or 10 years there. So one of the reasons we started our company is that the timing was definitely right. And I think given how much attention we've got and the kind of conversations we're having with not just investors, but also prospective customers and indeed engineers and academics around the world, people seem quite excited about what we're trying to do with our company. So, you know, as I said earlier, one of the key things is we launched that company, and I was one of the three or four, four co-founders. Long story short, one guy had to go work for the IEA afterwards. So you have to be stripped of all assets if you're going to go work for the UN. So 3 official co-founders. And I was chosen because of my kind of go-getter attitude. So bringing it right round to what I said at the beginning. I look back at Bootcamp and say part of who I am today is because of that course. So with that, I'll pause and hopefully we can get some interesting questions.
That's excellent. I'm sorry to hear about your mom. That's been a crazy year.
Yeah, I also have a baby now, so in the break I had to go bath him and feed him. So
roller coaster.
Life does. Yeah, it is like a roller coaster. It is.
It was an interesting year, exactly.
So I don't see any questions.
Share your experience.
Yeah,
your experience, River. Come on.
I'll talk about mine. So I do not have an engineering background. I went to school as an undergrad for political science, and I did a thesis there on looking at the rhetoric associated with the term energy independence. So like I wrote a lot, I read a lot, and I wrote a lot. I didn't do anything related to engineering. And then after that, I moved to Spain. I'm from the US, but I moved over to Spain because I wanted to learn Spanish, and that was my priority. And now I've been here for the last 7 years. So I'm actually still here right now. I'm in Barcelona. So you'll have to tell me, Vighnesh, when you come down. Maybe I can come see you pitch. And sure. While I was over here, I just got interested in nuclear. I was reading a lot. I was talking to a lot of people. And then someone recommended the boot camp to me because I said, look, this is a good way to meet a lot of people, to network. And so around that time, I decided I actually wanted to go back to school. I wanted to do a nuclear engineering degree and get some more experience on that side of these things. So I had a comfort level with these types of pretty complex issues that we work with or technologies we deal with every day. And so I had started school now. I applied for the boot camp. I got accepted. I participated, and I was like the only non-engineer. It was like 20 of us, and everyone else was some type of engineer, and I had a politics degree. And that was fun because I learned a lot. I got to meet Rachel, as well as a bunch of people, including Todd, who's my advisor now at Michigan. And then I got a job out of it, which was cool. I started working for the Nuclear Innovation Alliance for Dr. Ashley Finan. And that's kind of how my current career started. And so I love organizing the boot camp. I'm a huge proponent of it because I think it can be transformative for people. This is the experience I've had. And I'm excited about like the next 5 years because this is something I'm starting to think about. We're starting to talk about with the organizers, is thinking about how do we expand this opportunity to other people. I was interested to hear what Ed Blanford was talking about in terms of what their needs are at these startups. And I think that there is an opportunity to continue recruiting, energetic go-getter types from our nuclear community, but also look outside of it and see, right, what are the needs of the advanced nuclear sector, and what can the boot camp do to recruit in those spaces, right? I mean, do we need more social scientists? Do we need more people with business chops? Do we need more project managers? And so that's a conversation I'm looking forward to having in terms of how do we recruit more broadly. And so I'd be curious what you all think about that. And then also, I think more personally, like, what types of backgrounds would you, if you were to do the boot camp again in 2022, what type of people would you want to be in that cohort with? Would you want it to be 100% nuclear engineers? Would you want other backgrounds? Like who do you aspire to have in the alumni?
I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm co-leading the Energy and Resources Collaborative at Berkeley, which was historically led by MBA students. And having people with diverse backgrounds, like for example, MBAs, and then political science, because we had several people in our cohort who had political science and public policy background. That gives such a great advantage, because as an engineer, I don't know what the problem with public policy, for example. Like, I know there is a public opposition, but how it really rooted into many things in decision making, I had no clue. Basically, it was, okay, something I read there, something I read there, but then when you speak to those people who actually learn about this full time, that gives you completely different idea, and you start caring more about this aspects of the problem. And then MBA students or students with more of a business background, they know how to bring those clever ideas that we have, like published papers about, how to actually make them appealing for investors. Because as I said, if you have an innovative idea, you write papers about this, but if it doesn't leave the shelf as a paper, then your idea will die. And that's not a good good experience. You want your idea to be useful for the whole world. And basically, this is what we can learn from people with business background who have been building companies or have been managing teams and projects, and can bring that that voice and that ideas into our engineering minds, which is, I mean, because Nuclear Innovation Bootcamp pool usually majority are engineers, and we need some fresh things. We need some people who tell us, okay, you cannot talk to public like this, no numbers, more empathy, more personal story. So this is also where social science people need to be involved with us, because otherwise we will not be able to convey ideas and talk to public effectively. This is the main kind of problem that the whole nuclear industry has been having for a while.
Totally. All right, I'm gonna jump in because we have a question. And the anonymous attendee says, I've heard a lot of good things, but were there parts of the boot camp that were hard, challenging, and did you learn anything from those? It's a great question.
I can go if you want. So the one thing which was hard for me is the fact that as Rivet told, the structure of bootcamp is very hectic, so hectic, is that you will be having workshops and kind of like information from morning 8 to evening 6 and stuff like that. And only after that, you can work on your idea to develop kind of a business model to pitch it at the end of the bootcamp. And in my group, there were only 2 people, including me. And this was this was a really hectic challenge for me, because now there are a lot of responsibilities and less people to there are only 2 people to manage it. So the thing is, like, till the end, like until we were pitching, we were still making we were making changes in the slides, and we don't know what to say at the stage. And even like our team was kind of overextending the time limit at the time, and we couldn't even finish the presentation. We were stuck at the last 2 slides. But that kind of gave me like I took it as a learning experience. But after that, I learned, like, okay, even though there are 2 people, or even though if I don't have enough resources, how I can reduce the scope and present it well. And I kind of used it in my in my use case when I was working for my company later. I didn't have insufficient resources in some activities, but still managed to bring the best out of it. And it was the same happen when I said I went to other competitions. I kind of used this experience as like I used this experience and made myself better. So one way or another, bootcamp is going to put you in some kind of hard shoes, and you're going to learn from it. You're going to get embarrassed. You think that you're so bad or something, but it will be a great learning experience. It's not about winning. It's about like having the journey and learning from it.
I just wanted to sort of comment that I had almost the opposite experience, in the sense that my group was quite large. There were 6 of us, including, I think, Oscar Espinosa was on the call, and I'm pretty sure Boris was here earlier, at least. I think he's gone now. Hi, Oscar, if you're watching. We had a lot of people in our group who were leaders. And I mean, you're going to get that at the bootcamp because everyone's there to kind of make a name for themselves. And, you know, for the most part of the course, that was very much, everyone was totally happy to pat each other on the back, right? But as soon as you get to that kind of group exercise, you've got a lot of internal politics to deal with there. Now, I'm quite a strong character. I made a load of mistakes when it came to personal decision making and discussing with people and sort of assigning roles, making decisions as a group and so on, because we had a lot of people in there. I'd say probably 4 out of the 6 people in our group were very happy to take on that leadership role, which meant a lot of clashing over decision making. And that was quite difficult. And I think I learned quite a lot, in particular from Susie Baker. He basically took me to one side one day and was like, you know, there's a lot of friction in this group. You're all very talented. You've all got a lot of good ideas and stuff. But you need to learn how to gel together. You know, she then gave me some kind of tips on my own personal way of I can manage things. And I've taken those on board now. And I feel like I've moved that forward. But that's something I've definitely learned, is how to work in that team environment. And, you know, as a side point to this, competition is good. It's healthy to sort of push each other, but sometimes you can push each other in the wrong way. So now I feel like the skills I've gained from that lesson allow me to push people in the right way and always say, hey, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that actually. Let me maybe merge that with my idea and conflict it with my idea. And let's try and find a way to move forward, rather than necessarily trying to always be like, no, my idea is the best. And, you know, we're going to do this because I thought about it. And it's not the way, certainly not the way business works. And it's not the way good friendships develop as well. So that's what I learned.
Yeah, we have a new question about what type of instructions were the bootcamp missing that you think should be added in the future?
I'm going to answer that one quickly because we have 3 more minutes. And then afterwards, we have a workshop presented by Isabel Bimicki, who's going to be showing us her creative process for her isotope nuclear influencer persona. So I'm excited for that. But I think in terms of instructors, my experience and what I'm always trying to do is, historically, I mean, the boot camp is very volunteer based. We're a nonprofit organization and everyone donates their time. And so we get a lot of excellent presenters. We also get sometimes people that are closest to us. And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but we are trying to do some more engagement work to try and get experts from their specific field. So what I mean is, if we want to be learning about environmental justice, for example, there are leaders in that space right now involved in the Green New Deal, involved in progressive politics, and those are the type of presenters we want to try and get. If we want to be learning about finance, there are people who work in large banks and bankroll large infrastructure projects, and those are the people we want to be recruiting to present to us. And sometimes in the absence of having those connections or that type of a network, we end up getting someone from our own community. And so those are the types of instructors who I would like to try and continually improve on, so that we are really getting an expansive, or constantly working towards having the most expansive curriculum possible. And so I think this, you know, the nice thing about doing these online webinars is that it's pretty easy to recruit presenters, right? We've had people this year and last year who I don't think ever would historically have flown out to a boot camp and presented. But now we're building relationships with different communities. It's been helpful on that front. And so I think we're going to be trying to leverage those going forward. So again, we are trying to get kind of blue chip presenters for whatever topic it might be. So we have 1 minute left. I want to make sure that we have enough time to transition.
One quick comment.
Of course, please.
I was going to say, what would be amazing is if you get some celebrity profiles that support nuclear. I think Robert Downey Jr. would be one that I'd shout out. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger would be another, or high-ranking politician. I'm talking a congressman, a British MP, or something like that would be the way to kind of really gain some traction in some of those areas. So just my comment.
You can ask Isabel to help with that, I think, in the next session. Cool. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. If you all have more questions, you can email us. We have an email address, info@nuclearinnovationbootcamp.org, and we'll try and get back to you within a week or so. So thank you all for attending, and hopefully see you in the next workshop.